Hey OT students, this is Sharon Garman, and today we're going to be talking about writing progression. So, as we watch this, I want to make sure that you watch the first video that I did, which talked about grasp patterns, because all of those come into play when you're looking at the writing progression for our students. I also want you to keep in mind that these age limits that I'm going to give you, they're just a gauge so that you can understand typical development for students. Every kid is not going to be the same. You're going to see them all develop at their own pace. You're going to see some who are a little bit more advanced and some who take a little bit longer. But I want you to have a good understanding of where we can start so that we can see how kids progress once they're in that school setting. So the first things you're going to see around 10 months to about a year, kids are going to use that scribbling pattern, and you're going to see that pretty standard. That's normal for kids to do. You might also notice that scribbling pattern coupled with that growth graphs pattern that we talked about earlier in the lesson. The next one that you're going to see kids develop are those vertical and horizontal strokes. And usually you'll see those develop around age 2 or so. If you imitate those strokes, you can see kids demonstrate them after you do the same for them. The next one we're going to look at are those circular and cross strokes, and those develop around the age of 3. And keep in mind also that you're going to be demonstrating these strokes for kids before you ask them to imitate them, because a lot of times they may not necessarily know what a cross is. And so, just for emphasis purposes, when I demonstrate a writing stroke, I often say what it is that I'm drawing or writing to so that they can tie those things together. The next one you're going to look at developing is going to be around age 4 or 5, and that's going to be your square and your triangle. Now, again, remember these are going to be used as a guide because there are going to be some kids who are not necessarily versed in drawing these things yet, and there are going to be some kids who automatically know how to do this because they've been practicing. Remember, demonstrate these before you ask them to write them or draw them. Now we get to what we're going to be seeing in the schools. And so, if we were to go into a kindergarten class, your typical age is going to be around age 5. So, your students are going to develop those capital letters first, okay? We always try to teach the capital letters first because they are easier to write. If you're looking at the letters and how they're formed, capital letters are usually all the same size, so you don't have to worry about that when you're teaching. And then they often contain line patterns that are easier to write when you compare them to our lowercase letters. And so, what I mean by that is if you're looking at those capital letters, you're going to start off teaching those kids those straight line letters. And those are going to be your letters like your E, your F, your L. Those letters are going to be a little bit easier for kids to form. That capital I. In OT, we don't always teach in sequential order, we teach in developmental order. And so that can be something we can explain to the teachers if they're asking why we're going in that sequence. The next one they develop is the circular line patterns. And those are going to be your letters like your D, your O, your P. Those are all going to be letters that they correlate to how they develop those shapes. So if you're thinking about it, they learn straight lines first, then they learn the curved lines. And then your last capital letters the kids learn are going to be those diagonal line letters. So your W's and your X's. And again, that's why the triangle is usually the last one that kids learn how to write because it has those diagonal lines. So I want you to take this, use this as a guide. And when we go into those classrooms, I want you to come up with some strategies on your own on how we can teach handwriting in those classrooms. And then we'll go through it in our in-person lessons. Thank you.